There are many great books for recovery, and yet it's not unusual for new clients to say they've read many of them, but nothing seems to change. What am I doing wrong, they ask. Nothing, I say. You've gained a lot of insight into your issues, which is a good thing, but now you have to take the next step. And that's when I hand them The Mindful Way Through Depression. So what makes The Mindful Way Through Depression by far the book I recommend the most, even to clients who are not depressed? Well, it's the missing piece. You see, insight is important, but not sufficient for recovery. I've worked with many clients who had great insight, but were not able to change what they did in the moment. For example, alcoholics who could talk circles around me with respect to their understanding of recovery, but when it came to the moment of dealing with a craving, they didn't know how not to drink. Similarly, I've worked with chronically depressed persons who clearly understood that much of their depression was fueled by their own thinking, but when they made a mistake, they still beat up on themselves relentlessly. The Mindful Way Through Depression is a nuts and bolts book that teaches you how to live in the present moment so you can observe the addiction talking, or the depression talking, or the anxiety talking, but then with practice, learn to detach from such distorted automatic messages that have been stressing you out for years. Mindfulness is not so much about thinking your way out of addiction, depression, anxiety, or stress, but rather about being fully present with these conditions in a non-judgmental way so you can see them clearly, which then gives you distance and choice. I can either believe the tunnel vision of my depression talking, or I can be guided by my mindful brain, which sees the big picture in every situation. Mindfulness is not a fad or hocus pocus. Researchers from Johns Hopkins University sifted through 19,000 mindfulness studies and found 47 that met the criteria for well-designed scientific research. The findings from these 47 studies suggest that practicing mindfulness can help ease psychological stress, anxiety, depression, and physical pain. Other studies have shown that practicing mindfulness for as little as a month or two can lower blood pressure and boost the immune system. John Kabat-Zinn did the pioneering research for decades at his Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Clinic, otherwise known as MBSR, that scientifically documented the physical and mental health benefits of practicing mindfulness. And The Mindful Way Through Depression is patterned after MBSR, except that it's modified to be a self-help book for persons suffering from depression. However, I also recommend this book to clients dealing with anxiety, anger, stress, and even addiction, because everything it teaches about learning to manage depression is the same for managing these other conditions. In effect, what you're learning to do is tame the mind. Now, this is not a book you just read and put back on the shelf. Rather, you need to live with it for several months until you develop your own daily mindfulness practice, and then you will begin accruing the same benefits over time that the researchers at Johns Hopkins University identified: decreased anxiety, depression, stress, and physical pain. Back in the 1950s, if you'd opened a gym, you would have gone bankrupt because few people understood the necessity of physical exercise for good health. But now it's a no-brainer. Soon practicing mindfulness will be that same no-brainer for achieving physical and mental health. If you'd like help learning to live a more mindful life, then visit my website, SerenityOnlineTherapy.com, to learn more about me and the online services I provide. If you found this video helpful, please click the thumbs up button. And if you want to hear more from me, then click the subscribe button at the bottom right corner of the screen. I'll be publishing a new video every other weekend. And finally, keep paying attention to your life. Until next time.